Survivor Edgic is a system that fans of the hit reality TV show Survivor use to try to analyze the edit of a single episode of Survivor, and then use that to predict how each contestant will do later on in the show. Will they win? Will they be voted out soon? Who's to say? Now, I have never done Survivor Edgic before, but I have done extensive research on how it works. I have watched the premiere only of Survivor 48, and based only on the first episode, I am going to try to predict how every contestant will do. And I will use the Survivor Edgic system to attempt to do that. So, basically, this is what a Survivor Edgic chart looks like. We have all of our contestants over on the left side, the tribe that they are affiliated with, and on the right side, we have all of our potential options of how to assign each person their Edgic ranking. On the left portion right here, we have the under the radar edit, which means we really didn't see a whole lot of this person. They were, on the show, but not really enough to get a whole lot from them. In the middle section, we have middle of the road. That's what MOR stands for. Middle of the road is, we saw a little bit of them, but not an extensive amount. They got a decent amount of content. They had some scenes, some memorable moments, but nothing all that crazy. CP stands for complex personality, which means that they had a very complex edit. We learned a lot about them. We saw their relationships, maybe their history. We feel like they're a main character of that specific episode. And then we have OTT. OTT stands for over the top. This character, we saw a lot of them. More than maybe necessary. Maybe they weren't necessarily that relevant to what was going on, and yet we saw a lot of what they were up to anyways. And then on the last one, we also have some extra bonus ones. Now, there's also tone affiliated with Survivor Edgic. On the top row is negative tone, which means that the character was edited in a way that kind of gave them a just negative vibe. Maybe people weren't liking them, or they were acting in a villainous way. It feels like they're making you try to think that they're a villain of some kind. In the middle, we have neutral tone. There was really nothing about them. They might have been shown a lot, might have been shown a little, but it wasn't trying to influence you one way on how to feel about them. In the third row, we have M, which is mixed tone, which means that there was some very positive leaning content. They were trying to make you feel positive about this character, but there was also some negative leaning content. So it wasn't just neutral, no tone. There was definitely tone, but a tone that kind of went in both ways. And then finally, we have positive tone on the bottom, which stands for this was a positive episode for this character. It was specifically trying to make you feel good about this character, like they are some type of hero in some way. So, with all that being said, let's hop right in to the episode to see how we feel about the edit of each person. So, first on the list, we have Bianca from the Lagi tribe. Now, I feel like we didn't get a whole lot from Bianca in this episode. I think we saw a little bit of her, specifically her relationship to Thomas, but it was mostly told from Thomas's perspective. Thomas kind of gave his thoughts on him being close to Bianca, him wanting her to be a part of their 4 alliance. And Bianca just kind of was there. She definitely felt like the least important person on that tribe to me. I feel like I gotta give Bianca an under the radar. I don't think there was any specific tone affiliated with Bianca's edit in the premiere. I just think pure down the line, under the radar. Now, you can maybe bump her up to middle of the road. She definitely got some confessionals. But in an episode where it felt like everybody got a confessional, everybody had a segment, felt like Bianca was one of the least significant characters in the episode. Moving on to Cedric. Now, Cedric we definitely saw a lot more of. He definitely had a lot more going on. He was obviously in the losing tribe, which meant he did go to council. which means, we did get to see a lot more of his perspective, but I do feel like out of some of the people in his tribe, we saw his perspective a little bit less than others. It didn't feel too much. I'm feeling a normal middle of the road episode Edgic for Cedric. I think he had a decent amount of content, but nothing too crazy. I think middle of the road is the perfect rating for Cedric in this episode. Now we get to Charity, and I think Charity has the first tonal edit in a negative way, in my opinion. I think that this was a very negative episode for Charity. We saw a lot of people talk about how they weren't vibing with her, how she was kind of on the outs. Camilla specifically really setting her up to potentially be the first boot from that tribe. Things are not looking good for Charity in a way that I don't even think was necessary. Charity didn't even really do anything like villainous, but it did feel like it was trying to give us a negative tone. So we're either looking at a middle of the road negative or some other thing. I think middle of the road negative is probably appropriate because we didn't see a whole lot from Charity, but we've heard a lot about her in negative ways. So I'm feeling middle of the road negative there. Yeah. Now keep in mind, I've never done this before. I'm not a professional. This is my first time ever attempting this. So I'm going to have very strong opinions, but my opinions might be very wrong. I have no idea how this is going to compare to other people's charts. But I'm going to try my best to give the rankings that I feel are appropriate. And then in the future, I can check to see how I did compared to other people's opinions. Chrissy, pretty under the radar in my opinion. Not a whole lot from Chrissy. I feel like this is another straightforward under the radar edit. I don't think we got a whole lot from her. We heard a little bit, about her being a firefighter. She's kind of in the main four of that group. But it didn't feel super significant, and I feel like it definitely could have been a lot more for Chrissy. So I feel like an under the radar feels appropriate to me. And of course, when we get to the end of this, I might end up changing some of these because who knows? Maybe I'll decide that it's imbalanced based on what I end up with. David, I think we get to David. I think this is the first complex personality we get. I feel like this was a good episode for David. We saw quite a bit of him. We saw him searching for the idol. We saw him talking about, his job and kind of how he wants to play. I feel like this is a straight down the line complex personality edit for Cedric. I don't think that David. I don't think we've got tone on David. I'm trying to think, was there a moment where someone was saying, like, it was weird that he shared with everyone that he was finding, like, the idol clues? I feel like that might have been talked about by someone. But I don't think it was negative. We got the confessional from him talking about that how he could be a hero or a villain. He has done superhero work, so he could be the superhero or the supervillain. I feel like that definitely could go either way, and I feel like we could be setting up for a very heroic or very villainous storyline for David, but I feel like based on the premiere, it doesn't feel like there was much. It feels like it was pretty straightforward. So I'm going to go with just complex personality. Now, we get to two in a row here that is maybe the most significant here, and that is Eva and Joe. Now, these are significant in two ways. For one, I think they had great edits in the premiere. For two, these are my two Survivor draft contestants. Well, two of three of them. We'll get to the third one later. But I do a Survivor draft with my friends, and Eva and Joe are my two contestants, my top two picks. And I feel really good about their chances right now. This premiere was so good for Eva and Joe. I think for Eva, I'm going to give an over-the-top positive. We got a lot about Eva, a lot about her history, her struggle, all these sorts of things. Every time that we had so many confessionals, I clocked this in my edit reading brain, that there was a lot of emotional music being played when she was on screen. You know, I feel like there was a lot of moments where she was like talking about something and it was like wistful, emotional music. This felt like a very positive edit to me. We also saw her carrying in the bamboo, and that was like a thing. Like she was so contributing to the tribe and the morale. And we saw a lot of people vibing with her. This is an over-the-top positive for me, in my opinion. And the only person with a better edit is Joe, which this is gonna be big. So you see over on the right side, we have double positive and double negative edits. Now, these are very, very rare. You almost never see these show up on Edgic charts. I don't know if I've ever seen one of these show up on an Edgic chart before. But I feel like if there was ever a time to use a positive edit, this would be the time to do it. I don't know. I genuinely can't think of a better episode for a single person than this episode for Joe in a long time. OTTPP. That's right. That's right. Boom. OTTPP for Joe. Locking it in. That might be crazy. But I just think he had such a positive edit talking about, stuff with Eva, how he had her, how he wasn't going to let her down, how he was just this super nice guy. He got this big segment of him like crying and being like overwhelmed with joy of being on the show. We heard him talk about himself and being a firefighter. I just feel like Joe had such a positive edit in this episode. I just don't know how you get much better, and I know that OTTPP is so rare, but I really can't think of a better time to use it than this. These occasions do not pop up often, and if I decide later to change it, then I always can. But right now, that's how I'm feeling. I just think that this was so positive for Joe. And that is my winner pick, Joe. So yes, there's a lot of bias, but Joe, boy, you're gonna win. I'm telling you. Come on. He's my preseason prediction winner pick. So I'm hoping that Joe can pull it out. So, I feel like I gotta give Joe. I saw some people on Reddit talking about, how Joe's edit was bordering on an OTTPP. I don't know if a lot of people were actually giving that sort of thing to him, but I felt like it was only appropriate in this circumstance. That's my opinion. So, there we are. Okay? Joe, OTTPP. Now, let's move on to Justin. For losing the challenge and going to council, I feel like we definitely saw the least of Justin on his tribe. I feel like we did not get a whole lot of his perspective. He was one of the swing votes, hypothetically, but he was mostly the swing vote in correlation with Kevin. Whenever we heard talk about it being a potential swing vote, it was always from Kevin's perspective. And Justin was just sort of also there by affiliation. So I am feeling under the radar on Justin, which is a little intense, but that's just how I feel. That's how I'm thinking. I don't really remember a significant scene from Justin himself. You know what I mean? It was always like in relation to other people. So that's my thoughts. Under the radar on Justin. Camilla. great episode for Camilla. We saw a lot of Camilla's perspective. I'm trying to decide if there was tone to Camilla's edit. Because I'm feeling a complex personality in Camilla. We saw a lot about kind of where she is in the tribe. I don't think there was any tone. That's my guttural instinct. I feel like if there was tone, it was mixed. But if there wasn't tone, then there's just no tone. I feel like we're looking at another straightforward, complex personality on Camilla. That's my opinion. Okay. We're going to go with that. Okay. So. Let's move on to Kevin. I feel like we definitely heard from Kevin a lot. I feel like this was a big episode for Kevin. A lot of it circumstantial. He dislocated his shoulder. He went on the journey. He was the swing vote. There was a lot of Kevin in this episode. And I'm wondering, I feel like we're looking at another just straightforward, complex personality. Because again, I feel like especially in the premiere, like there's not a lot of tone going on. I just think that like, I don't know what tone he gets. I just think that this is just yeah. Yeah, I think complex personality on Kevin. Now Kyle had a very good edit. I think I'm going to go complex personality positive on Kyle. I feel like we saw him helping Kevin when after Kyle broke his glass, he realized he was out of the Sweat vs. Savvy challenge. And there was nothing he could do, so he thought, might as well go help Kevin rather than just sit back and do nothing. And Kevin was his opposition, but he realized he was basically DQ'd, so he might as well go help the opposition. That was a really positive thing for Kyle. We saw a lot of people talk about how they trust him, how they believed what he said about the journey, how he was like a nice guy. We saw a lot of people kind of relating to him. I go complex personality positive on Kyle in this one. This was a good episode for Kyle. Mary. I'm feeling middle of the road on Mary. I don't know if there's a tone to it. I think just normal middle of the road, straight up for Mary. We saw some of her, but again, not a whole lot, especially for going to council. It felt like we really saw council through mainly two people's perspectives, in my opinion. And Mary was not one of them. So I'm feeling middle of the road on Mary. I just don't really remember much of scenes from her. I know that Kevin talked about like really liking her and vibing with her and trusting her, but other than that, that's about it. So, yeah, not a great moment for Mary. Not a bad episode for Mary, but she's definitely gonna be in a tough position moving forward, based on her gameplay. And I just feel like I don't think it was like a super over the top edit here. Mitch, I think we're looking at a positive edit for Mitch. I feel like we definitely saw him talk about how this was his dream, yada yada. I'm feeling a middle of the road positive on Mitch. Because I don't think we got a whole lot from Mitch. But what it was very positive, good stuff. Oh, and Mitch is my third draft team member. Now, I did not draft him. He was just the last pick that I automatically got. However, I'm feeling good on his chances in the team. Again, I feel like a positive edit for Mitch. Um, yeah, but not a whole lot there. So middle of the road positive, even dare I say under the radar positive. I feel like he got. I feel like he got more than under the radar. He got a big scene at the very beginning of the episode, and then I feel like not a whole lot from him after that. But I still think, yeah. Oh boy. Oh, I just saw who's next. Next, we're gonna have to talk about Say. And oh boy, Say had quite the edit this episode. This is true. I think we're looking at an over-the-top negative on Say. This has felt like classic over-the-top negative. It gave big Rome vibes from last season. Just doing a lot, kind of villainous, over-scheming, putting people on the tribe off a little bit. This was a big episode for Say. A lot of confessionals, a lot of screen time, but not very positive. I feel like, I mean, it's not the most negative. It's not like super negative, but I feel like it was definitely over the top. And if it was over the top, it would be negative. I think there's an OTTN on Say. For Shaheen, I feel I'm complex, right? You could maybe bump Shaheen down to a middle of the road. I don't know if there's any tone to Shaheen. There was some stuff about him wanting to like gobble your lunch. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there was like, I don't really recall any positive content moments for Shaheen. And so I feel like there was maybe, if anything, like there was some moments of him looking like a little bit like a villain. But I don't think that the villainous stuff really happened. I feel like it was maybe like setting stuff up like he might do some villainous stuff in the future. But as of right now, he just seemed, I think neutral tone. Neutral tone on Shaheen. Love Shaheen. Good episode for him. Star. I feel very similarly to Star in this episode that I felt about Charity. Oh, whether look at middle of the road negative or middle of the road mixed. I don't think it was that negative. I'm thinking maybe middle of the road mixed. She got a scene looking for the idol and whatnot, but it just kind of seemed like she was on the outs, not super involved in stuff. You saw people talking about like, oh, what's going on with Star? Why is she not in camp? She looking for an idol? Like, people weren't really trusting her. But I don't even know if I would go as far as to say it was negative, but it definitely felt like there was tone. So that's why I'm feeling mixed, because I don't think it was neutral. I feel like I would either go negative or mixed. But I compare it to Charity, I feel like Charity had a way more negative edit than Star. So I feel decent about the middle of the road mixed ranking. Yeah. Thomas. I think we're looking at just another complex personality for Thomas, right? I mean, I'm trying to think, does Thomas look positive in this episode? I also think no. I feel pretty similarly to Shaheen, that I felt like he was there. He had like good moments, strategy talks. He was getting in with people, making alliances, but I don't think anything crazy. I feel like I'm getting the hiccups. Yeah, I think he had a lot. This was a very good episode for Thomas. But I don't think there was tone. But that's my opinion. We'll see. And then finally, we have spoilers. Spoilers. Our first boot, Stephanie. I'm feeling mixed tone because I feel like there was positiveness to it, but I also think that I guess she ended up losing the battle, so maybe her methods weren't the right methods. So it's kind of negative, I guess. So, like, either complex personality mixed or middle of the road mixed. I feel like complex personality mixed on Stephanie. That's just my feeling about it. And that's it. So this is what the Edgic chart looks like for episode 1 of Survivor 48. Based on my opinions and my reading of the edit. I feel pretty good about it. I like the look of it. I feel like it's not too overbalanced. Yeah, I feel pretty good about this. I'm not too crazy. So now that we have all of our ratings, you're supposed to put in numbers to kind of assign to each person to give them a visibility rating. So for example, Bianca. We gave her under the radar. Not 2 under the radar. I feel like a 2. Under the radar 2. On Bianca. It's a 1 through 5 ranking. She was there, but not a whole lot. I'd give her a 2. Cedric, middle of the road. We saw quite a bit of Cedric. I do think middle of the road edit, but I'm feeling at least a 3. I think middle of the road 3 probably on Cedric. Yeah. Charity, middle of the road negative. I'm feeling a 2. We saw less of Charity than Cedric, that's for sure. So I think middle of the road 2. Negative 2 is my opinion there. Chrissy, under the radar. We'll go under the radar 2. Right? I think that's appropriate. I think especially in the premiere, they really do try to show you at least a little bit of everybody. So I think it makes sense that nobody's getting too low of visibility in the premiere, you know? David, complex personality, 3. Nothing too crazy, I don't think. Eva, I'm thinking a 4 on Eva and a 4 on Joe. I feel like we saw a lot of both of them. Neither like too much. I don't think I'd give a 5. I want to give a 5 to Joe. Maybe a 5 to Eva, but that's kind of as far as I think I would go with that. But I feel like 4 for both of them. Justin, I feel like had the smallest edit, especially for going to Tribal that episode. Not a lot from Joe. So I'm feeling a 2. Right? I don't know if I can go so far as to give him a 1, but I think 2. Camilla, we're going to give a 3. We're going to give a 3. She was there. Kevin, I might give a 4 to Kevin. I feel like we saw quite a bit of Kevin. Yeah, I think give a 4 to Kevin. Keep in mind, 5 is like extreme. And 1 is pretty extreme. I feel like those don't get used super often. Yeah. I feel good about that. Kyle. I'm trying to think, do I give Kyle a 3 or a 4? He was in it quite a bit. He had some good content. I feel like 3. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. I'm going to give it 3. Mary, less than Cedric. I'd give Mary a 2. Middle of the road 2, I think. Not under the radar, but not a lot. Definitely less than Cedric. Mitch, we'll give it 2 as well. Say, I'm going to 5. OTT and 5. Huge edit for Say. A lot of say in this episode. Yeah, I think that's good. Shaheen, 3. Star, 2. Thomas is interesting. Thomas is either 3 or 4. Honestly, I might give him a 4. Yeah, I feel like we got a lot of that tribe. Yeah, I'll give Thomas a 4. I'm happy with that. And Stephanie, honestly, I give her Thomas personality mix, but I think I'm going to give her a 2, because I feel like we didn't see a whole lot of her, even though I do feel like she was complex. And that's my opinion. So there it is. The official North Edgic chart for the first episode of Survivor. Now, that being said, we're going to scroll down, and down here we have our contenders. So I'm supposed to give like 5 contenders on who I think is most likely to win this season. So, then we're going to rank the people based on how I ranked their Edgic ratings on how likely I think they are to win this season. So, let's get into it. I think maybe we should start at the bottom. I feel like that's maybe more interesting. To start at the bottom, who's least likely to win this season based on the episode 1 edit rankings. And I feel like if I had to say who is least likely to win this season based on the first episode. Star is pretty low. I feel like maybe Star. I feel like Star, not great content. If we're looking over here, we're going to look at a middle of the road mixed 2 on Star. That's not great for our first episode. Even leaning negative. Yeah, I feel like not good for Star. Not looking good. Charity's pretty low. Would I put Charity second last or third last? Because there's someone else I'm thinking of. Because I feel like Charity could have like a redemption arc in some way. There was a lot of talk about Charity, which at least is something. I kind of think Bianca might be lower. Yeah, I kind of think that's true. I don't know why the borders have disappeared for some reason, but no, we're just gonna have to deal with that. So, yeah, I feel like Bianca's pretty low. I feel like this was bad for Justin. I might even put Justin down here. Yeah, this was like not a good episode for Justin. I feel like especially since he was in such an influential position. He had an important spot in the tribe where he was involved in a lot of what was going on, and yet we still did not see very much of him, which is not good for Justin. I feel like if he wins the season, you would have saw a lot more of him. Dude got an under the radar 2. Even 1, maybe. So not good for Justin. Also, Chrissy is pretty low. We're looking at these under the radars. Honestly, I feel even worse about Chrissy. Well, would Chrissy be above Bianca? I think I might put Chrissy here. Feels a little high, but I don't think that her edit was that bad. It wasn't a whole lot, but I think it could be setting her up for success. More than I got from Bianca. I felt like I did not get much from Bianca. And Chrissy vs. Charity is tough, but I feel like Chrissy, was definitely a lot more positive So yeah, I think that's appropriate. Excuse me. Okay. After Chrissy, who do I think is next most likely to win this season based on these edit readings that I just did? Things are looking low for Mary. Honestly, I'm looking at the men on this list and they're all shaping up pretty decent. I feel like things are looking low for Mary. Things are looking low for Cedric. I think Mary. I'm sorry, but I feel like a lot of the women are not in good spots right now, Edgic wise. Yeah. And then I think Cedric. Yeah. Yeah. I like this so far. Ugh. Then I think David. Because I think David's he's got the complex personality. But I don't think it was like a ton. He definitely he's set up well. He's set up. He's got like the could be a superhero or a supervillain thing, which is definitely a story that it's setting up an interesting story for him in the future. But where that will go, I don't know. Then let's see. Let's see who is next. Oh, actually, I think Cedric. I think David's above Mitch. I'd put Mitch there. Mitch had a fine edit. If we're looking at Mitch over on the left side, we'll go to the middle of a positive too. Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot for Mitch. Positive content, but not a whole lot. I feel better about David's complex personality than I do about Mitch's middle of a positive. But the positive tone definitely puts him above some of these other middle of the roads for sure. Uh, then I'm going to go Say next, which I'm a little surprised Say has ended up this high, but I do think that, like, maybe Say is just a big character. And I feel like although there are comparisons to someone like a Rome from last season, I do feel like it was not nearly as negative as Rome was, at least so far. And I feel like you did see a lot of her talking about her, you know, her gameplay style, like who she wants to align with, who she wants to play with, what she's gonna do. So I feel like I feel like I'm good on that ranking there for Say. Now things start to get more difficult moving forward because I feel like the rest of these rankings all feel like very decent competitors based on the edit so far. I don't have a whole lot of flaws in most of these edits. I think I might put Shaheen next. Shaheen was there, but it didn't feel like a lot. It didn't feel like a ton for Shaheen, especially like knowing that he's going to be probably a big personality on the show. He's a big character. I'm super interested in Shaheen. I feel like it wasn't a ton. That's how I think. So I think I'd put Shaheen next. Then I think Kyle next. Yeah, I think Kyle next. I feel like Kyle's stuff was maybe a little bit kind of circumstantial. Like, he did a nice thing, but, like, yeah, obviously, he did a nice thing. You're going to show that. You know, yeah. And I feel like I'm going to put Kevin, his buddy, on the Sweat vs. Savvy above. I feel like Kevin was positioned very well in this episode. We heard a lot from him. On who he wants to vote, how he kind of was going between working with Say, but he also felt very good with Mary, and then he was worried about kind of blindsiding her by taking out Stephanie. I feel better about Kevin than I do about Kyle especially. I think Kevin is definitely who I feel the best about position-wise and edit-wise of anyone on the Green Tribe by far. Then we get into the top 4. And I feel really good about this top 4 right now. I think... I'm tossing and turning. I think Eva. I think Eva's going to get the positive edit she got, probably no matter what, but she's still got a lot of content. I still feel very good about Eva's chances. I do think it wasn't like so much, you know, but I do still feel pretty good about her edit. Then I'm going to go Camilla. I feel like we heard a lot from Camilla strategically, what she wants to do. Feel really good about that. And then we're going to go Thomas and Joe at top. Joe's my winner pick. I'm sticking with it. I feel so good about Joe this episode. And yeah, I feel like this is a good list. If we take this, we go down here, we copy it. That is what our contender list looks like based on the first episode. I feel pretty good about that. I think that's a pretty good list. Yeah, that's a good list. I feel like we had a lot from Thomas. I feel like Thomas seemed like a big contender based on the first episode. Namely Alliance. A lot of strategic stuff from Camilla as well. But I just think Joe had such a gleaming edit. Probably too obviously of a gleaming edit in the first episode. But man, what a gleaming edit for Joe. Oh, I'm hoping for a lot from Joe from this season. I'm hoping. I love Joe. And yeah, that's my list. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of bias. Because, I mean, Thomas was not maybe one of the people I predict to be a top contender. But like Joe, Camilla, Eva, Kevin, those were all like top of my list potential contenders. And I feel pretty good about them in premiere. But I mean, like, Charity was a high contender for me preseason, and I mean, she's very low on this list. So, yeah, that's how I feel. Let's take this and copy it and put it in here. Bam! Back to normal. So, yeah, that's the rankings. I think we got Joe at the top, Star at the bottom. Everyone else in between. I feel pretty good. This is my contender weekings. For week 1 of Survivor 48, my rankings, my Edgic chart, my contender rankings, I feel pretty good about this. This was really fun. It's really fun. My first time ever doing it. I hope to do it in future weeks. I won't be able to do it for week 2, but I hope to come back and do it for week 3 because this is a really cool thing to get to do. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for the future of this season. I feel like it's shaping up pretty well, especially based on kind of my like drafts and my predictions for the season. Like Joe at number 1 is feeling really good. Joe got so much in the premiere. He had he had that big emotional moment in the flashback scenes. He got that big thing in the beginning. Honestly, my draft team is Joe, Eva, and Mitch, and I feel pretty good about all of them. Eva and Mitch, and then Eva were the first 2 people shown on screen in like the montage at the beginning. And the last one, Joe, with a big emotional moment. And then who gets the first confessional? Joe. If we're talking about reading the edit, that is some good signs for my draft team, baby. I feel like, I'm going to say it, I feel like it's possible that my draft team of those 3, Joe, Eva, and Mitch, dare I say, final 3. Final 3. I'm locking it in. That's my prediction. Joe, Eva, Mitch, final 3 of the season. Let's make it happen. It's already happened. But we haven't seen it yet, so hopefully it turns out good. So, I'm excited. Excited for Survivor 48. Love a good Survivor. Maybe I'll come back on here and I'll do edit readings for another show sometime. Maybe I'll do it for Australian Survivor as well. I've been watching Australian Survivor. Loving it. Really good season. Brain First Brawn 2. That's about all I got. See you later.